this property was already gutted. So it made my life so easy from the design perspective.
I can't believe it's actually standing.
Actually, no, this is good. You guys started the framing on this. Looks good.
Yeah,
so
it's looking really nice. The beams in.
we bought this empty already. So we bought this like this. Jamil, give us a little bit of information on the purchase.
Yeah, so it was an interesting negotiation. It started off quite low, but in peak of the market, the seller decided to go with us. The opportunity here was amazing for the number of units we could put in, and the buyers were quite happy.
So this is a great location. So this is a better location probably than the majority of what we're buying, because we are very, very close to the water. And we're definitely going to put this on the midterm market and find some great executives to rent this as a nice furnished place. In terms of the JV partner, so we brought them in. They came actually once, and they're awesome. So, but there were a little bit of challenges, because when you're purchasing something that's completely empty, there are going to be some challenges with financing. And so let's talk about the financing.
Okay, so on a gutted property, as I mentioned, this is private money. So there are a couple of things. First of all, how are we going to close the deal? How much private money will we need to close the deal? And that is a function of how much the client has in terms of down payment and how comfortable they are with leverage going into the deal.
Yeah, so this is obviously down to the studs. It's not a bank deal or a B-lender deal. This is a private deal.
And then we have to figure out how we're going to finance the construction. I wouldn't jump at construction financing as a first option or private money financing as a first option. I would look at lines of credits because they're cheaper, equity in other properties because it's cheaper, before I jump at private money.
So this house obviously was not bank financeable because it's completely empty. So Dalia, give us some more information on if somebody is looking to buy something down to the studs like this, what should they know ahead of time?
With private money, we have to be smart about using private money.
So these are the two things. How are we going to purchase? How are we going to cover the construction?
It is more expensive. The interest rate is higher. There are fees involved typically. So on a project like this, we want to make sure that when we get private money, we understand when you're going to exit the deal and make sure that you're not paying any hefty fees on exit, because private lenders do charge interest when you exit a deal sometimes. So we want to make sure that it's open, or it's got, the least amount of interest payable. We want to make sure that they don't claw up a lot of fees up front, because you want to keep more in your pocket. So these are the key highlights.
And again, before we take on any type of private money, we have to know going into the deal, how are we going to pay it back? So I hire an appraisal that tells me what is the value of this property once it's done. And we want to make sure that the clients qualify with the right lender to pay that money back.
In a market like the one we're in right now, where the values are changing a little bit, we got to be a little bit more conservative when it comes to private money. You don't want to take too much of it, and we want to plan for the exit. So we want to make sure that the as complete value is something we know about today, and that we can refinance and pay off whatever money we're taking on with the private lenders today.
So we want to run the numbers. We want to do the deal as if we're doing a bank deal, because fast forward 12 months forward, we're going to be doing that. So I better do it now to make sure I'm not going to run into surprises later. So appraisal upfront, qualification upfront, and figuring out how much private money we're going to take to purchase and where the construction money is coming from.
Yeah, that's a great point. And one of the things I would also say is we are going into, I think, some turbulent times ahead. Like, what are some of the things that you're seeing that's like red flag, you guys need to slow down? What advice do you have?
As an investor, you got to be careful about high leverage. Why? Because it is really cool to take this much money from a private lender going into the deal with a little down payment into the deal. It's pretty cool. But if the values are not going to lift up once you're done, or the market is going to stay flat, how are we going to pay this money back? So I would suggest that you make sure that you validated your exit with the mortgage broker upfront, not just take the private money and assume that our refinance is going to work, or assume that property is going to sell. That's number one, validate the exit. We're going to have enough to pay it. And then number two, are we planning for the worst case situation now? Don't plan for the rosy picture, plan for the worst case situation in this market that we're in.
Absolutely, great advice. Ken, what are we looking for from a drawing design standpoint?
Yeah, like a gutted house is really, to me, it doesn't have to be fully gutted. What it means to me is that all of the important stuff is exposed and you can see it. So that's your floor joists, your structural framing members of the building. So your beam, your structural beam, your columns. You know, you can see the foundation wall, right? The basement foundation wall is fully exposed so that you can do a thorough inspection of that wall. You can get accurate wall-to-wall dimensions. We're still seeing challenges with getting permits approved at the city in a timely fashion. So again, you know, really thinking ahead, planning ahead, making sure that you know, we're getting our water line upgrades ordered in advance. We're booking our hydro upgrades in advance. You know, same. You know, Lee can maybe speak to a little bit of the supply chain issues, but we're still seeing some issues with getting stuff done in a timely fashion. So really, like, just planning ahead is still number one.
And it took, how long did it take to get the permits for this particular property?
Good question. I don't remember. There's a lot of different.
About 4 months.
4 months, okay. So just to keep that in mind in the calculations as you're running your numbers, it's not, you know, as soon as you close on a house you can start. There are going to be some time in between that until you can actually get the green light.
And to add to that,
yeah.
sorry, one of the things when we do negotiations is we add that as a condition to ensure that we can apply for permits while we're in the conditional period or we're trying to get into the closing. So that helps us expedite the process of getting the permits approved instead of waiting till closing, which could be 30, 60, 90 days out.
Yeah.
So 4 months actually might sound like a long time, but it's really not when you think about the amount of work that needs to go into this. So you get the design side of stuff. But on top of the design side of stuff, you have the engineering side, you have the mechanical engineering side. So it is a lengthy process. So and you got the conversion side of stuff as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Right,
details that go into these projects that not everybody necessarily fully realizes or appreciates. The level of detail that has to get sorted out before the city's going to approve a permit. You know, and there's lots of communication that happens, you know, between us and the planning examiners at the city to sort out these details. And yeah, there's just a lot that goes into it.
So when we kind of say plan for 9 to 12 months, you know, 4 months sometimes, which I think is really good in this case, but sometimes it is longer. The other really good thing, going back to what Dalia said about these projects are private money. So they are private money, a little bit more expensive to buy. However, the challenges that you are not going to face when you buy these type of houses that we walk into and are completely gutted is there's no surprises. Everything is open. It's a blank canvas. It's easier for a designer to come in and do his measurements and design work. It's easier for a contractor to come in and look and see, you know, what is needed to come into this home versus, you know, looking at something that is still intact and not knowing what's going to be. There's a lot of guesswork or guesstimating involved in that. We also have in the basement, we're lowering it, so not quite underpinning but benching, which also requires engineering and design work as well. So that also takes part of the permit process.
You don't have to per se. It depends if the title insurance companies will agree to incorporate and utilize the title insurance company to do the refinance. But if there's additional debts being paid in a refinance or some reorganization of some other items and so forth, typically once you start adding additional conditions to any sort of refinance or mortgage renewal, that's when a lawyer is almost always needed. But it's basically case by case.
So we bought this place for $650. Our rental budget is between $250 to $275, but it's a beautiful area, and we are going to take 2 of the 4 units and turn them into really cool spaces with exposed brick and put them on the midterm market. What's the biggest thing that you need to do from a construction standpoint here?
Just follow the plans, really. At the end of the day, to me, they're all the same. At the end of the day, it's framing and off to mechanicals, then off to finishing, and we have our set inspections with the city. We've passed all the inspections so far. We're pretty much on the mechanical after this.
So I'm disappointed in the fact that there's no pigeons here. Just kidding. We bought a house for those of you that watched season 1, and there's like 10 pigeons.
Hello, welcome to.
Before we know, so.
Who on the team?
Oh One's gone. Okay. I don't like the birds.
You cannot edit that one. You cannot edit that.
It's all good. It's in there, and
More than that, for sure.
probably more than that. They were living there,
Dead ones too.
and there might be some pigeons still. I don't know. I think
Squirrel too, I think. That chipmunk or a squirrel.
yeah. So no pets in this one. This one's pretty solid.
This one's pretty clean, actually.
Feels lonely here.
Yeah.
You know what it is.
This is clean. This is very clean.
It's lonely.
But you know what? I really like that it's close to the water. I think it's cool. I think it's a different location than the rest of them.
So as far as areas go, this is probably an A++ area for Hamilton. So we're close to the Bayfront, we're close to the GO station, you're close to James Street, where all the shops and restaurants are. So it's like a stellar area for rentals or for even for resale. Not that we're going to resell this, but.
There's options. We always want to look at different options, and we never know where the market's headed, right? I mean, Jamil, like you're seeing lots of people probably even almost pivoting at this point in time based on where they're at. Like, do you have people calling you saying, "Hey, I wanted to refi this, but now I think I'm going to sell," or "I'm going to sell and I have to do the other way around"? Like, what are you seeing?
They're doing both. Exactly what you're saying. They're kind of looking at the valuations because the rents have gone up so much that they're holding on for a little longer, waiting for the market to turn back. Because the rents in Hamilton have skyrocketed in the last, I would say, 12 months. We're even noticing in the student rental space, the rents, even for rooms, even lodging, has gone up 20%. So there's a massive shortage. So a lot of the landlords are just holding, and they're saying, well, wait, if we have to do it, because the valuations are not there.
So would you say, because I know Dalia and I, we talked about this a lot, so do we, Sarah and I, would you think it's a good time to buy right now, considering the...
So, great question. I would say right now is an opportunity if you have the long-term plan in place. If you're trying to do a short-term flip, I'd be a little bit wary of that option because the valuations are still changing every 6 months. Things are staying in the market a little bit longer, but if you have a long-term plan over a year or 2 year, definitely opportunity to be had because sellers are also feeding into the news. They're listening and they're kind of getting worried, and they'll take an offer. We had showing up on the mountain, 30 people visited the place, and they had one offer on the property. So buyers are still a little hesitant, and when there is a buyer out there, sellers are just taking what they can get.
Now, I've interacted a lot with you and other agents, especially on stuff on the mountain, right? And there was a time, January, February, March, what were bungalows going for back then? We're talking like 1,000 square foot bungalows up on the mountain.
People were paying, like this had to be finished between high eights. And these are, as Lee was saying, bungalows on the mountain that needed to be fixed. Need to be renovated. So yeah, that market has definitely shifted.
So you're saying so $850 for a bungalow on the mountain. Typical renovation budget for a duplex conversion. You're in between, let's say, with the upstairs and the conversion, probably 180 to 220.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
180
Easily.
to 220.
Easily.
We just had a quick chat outside for potential clients.
Correct.
On a bungalow house.
Yep.
What is the price of that one?
He's listed it in the 4s, but he will take 600 today.
Oh, that's why you're like, let's go call our client.
Right.
Because
So
we've got
you
somebody
can see
looking.
how much of a shift that is, and they'll take a preemptive offer right now at 6.
So quick math, because I love quick math.
Yeah.
So we just determined that we're like 180 to 200, 220,
Yeah.
average being closer to 180.
Yeah.
And if you're buying this for 600, puts you at 780.
Yeah.
What are these refining for today?
In at least in the over eights, because the fact that you can't get duplexes, people prefer the mountain, right? People prefer the mountain. It's just a better quality of housing and the stock and the community and the neighborhood. But yeah, you get your refi no problem.
So great opportunity, I would think.
Yeah, so
I
it's
think
called
the
my
average
duplex.
right now is still over 9.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
average price is still over 9. It's like 9, mid 9s.
Yeah.
Welcome to this week's Mortgage Minute. We hope you're enjoying the show. This is Dalia, the founder of Streetwise Mortgages, who is our expert financial team. Welcome, Dalia.
Thank you.
My question today is, we've talked a little bit about borrowing private money. What are the interest rates and fees associated with going forward with private money?
So It's important to recognize that private money is a very different market. If you're applying with a bank, you can technically go online, look up a Google rate supplier, and you can see what are the variable rates, what are the fixed rates. That's not the case with private money. Every deal is different, but I'm going to give you a range. If you're borrowing a first mortgage, you're generally looking at 7 to 9% in interest. And if you're going with a second mortgage, you're looking at 10 to 12 or 13% in interest. And private money lenders charge fees on top of that. Their fees start at 1%, you may see them at 2%, but again, every deal is different, and some of the lenders may add premiums to the rate or premiums to the fees depending on how risky the deal is. That's generally how these deals are priced.
Great, thank you so much. Now back to the show.
Yeah, so what you're looking at here is the stud framing that's going in place. What you see with the brick, this is the original double brick construction of the home. A lot of these old century homes are built with double brick, which is the brick bearing wall is what we call it. So that's what's structurally holding up this house is the brick. So the 2x4 stud wall that we're framing in front of it, this is for our new exterior stud wall. As far as, we have to run electrical, we have to run insulation. The spray foam insulation. So that gives us, we have to fasten the drywall to the wall. So that allows us to complete the interior finishing. So that's what you're seeing there with this wall.
So as a buyer, working with your lawyer, there's going to be certain items that we're going to be looking for and requiring from you. We'll need your ID. So valid photo identification is typically Ontario license or Canadian passport. There are some other possible exceptions to that, but it's typically those two pieces of photo ID. If you don't have both of those, then you can use a valid credit card as a second piece of ID. So we do need identification to satisfy the bank's requirements if there's financing involved, and satisfy our own obligations to identify the client. You need to provide us with insurance, a proof of insurance for the home, and who's going to be arranging that for you so we can coordinate that on closing. And then we need you to provide to us who your mortgage rep or mortgage broker is going to be for the financing of the deal. With those items, we would be able to complete and process the purchase and sale agreement. So those are the key items that the buyers need to provide to us as lawyers to be able to facilitate and process almost any purchase deal. There could be other items that are more specific because they're subject to terms and conditions of a particular deal, but those are the main 3 items that we need to have from all buyers on any purchase.